Hello everyone, my name is Darren Billings, and today I want to bring to you an individual that is second to none in being a leader in our community. Someone who is active in many aspects of our community's higher education system in West Tennessee. This is a man that is not only a great husband and a proud father, he is also the president of Jackson State Community College. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you Dr. Bruce Blanding.
And a grandfather to boot.
And a grandfather to boot. Proud grandfather. Today, Dr. Blanding, we just want to ask you a few questions as far as being part of our legacy, as far as like Weststar is concerned. With everything that you've done and everything that you've accomplished in your life, I see no one even better as far as like doing this interview. So first of all, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, Darren, we're proud of you being in Weststar. That is a very, very worthwhile program. It is something that makes West Tennessee an even better place to live.
Thank you, sir.
Something about myself. Started off as a high school dropout back in 1963 and went in the Marine Corps. Ended up in Vietnam for a while and got out of that and came home and decided to go to college and better myself. And the rest, as you say, is history. Served in a number of community colleges around the country and the world. Came to Tennessee in '88 at Chattanooga State Community College, and came to Jackson in 2000, and been at Jackson State since 2004.
Outstanding. Now, as you look back, do you wish, or what do you wish that you could have accomplished that you haven't just yet?
Personally, I'm very satisfied with the things I've accomplished over my lifetime. I had a number of goals established very early on, and reached those goals and then some. My primary interest was in raising my kids to be credits to society and positive influences themselves. And I managed to get all three of my kids, my two sons and my daughter, through bachelor's educations and then they went on, my daughter especially went on with international public health and some other things at the graduate level, and all three are doing very well. And I have, my one son has two grandsons and another son has a granddaughter, and still waiting on my daughter to get started there, but those are the things that I really measure myself by. In terms of the profession, I'm very pleased to have tried to create in most of the organizations I've been with, to create an atmosphere of positive views of the work that we do, and trying to make the organizations better places than they were prior.
Great. Now, what would you describe as your philosophy of life so far?
Yeah, my philosophy of life was really shaped by my Vietnam experience, to be honest with you. When I was a teenager, I was impatient, I was brash, I was really not appreciative of the wonderful things and opportunities we have in our lives and in this country. When I went to Vietnam and I saw friends of mine, very close friends, die in very horrendous fashion, I realized the fragility of life, and I realized that what you do today makes a difference not just today but forever. And I came back a changed man. I'm not the person that went there. My view on life and on the world became much more one of, it's important what I do today and every single day. It makes a difference in so many ways. And that's probably the biggest thing. I've learned patience, I've learned tolerance, I've learned that the responsibility to change this world rests on my shoulders or your shoulders, and that what we do does make a difference.
Great. Now, we all have a strong connection to our community, wanting to do better, make our communities better. Can you describe what you have seen over your professional life that has impacted our community?
Well, obviously, I'm new to the community, relatively speaking. I came to Jackson in 2000 as the Chief Executive Officer of the Tennessee Technology Center, and then in 2004 the Tennessee Board of Regents hired me as the president of Jackson State. I've been with the Board of Regents as a CEO since 1996. Been with the system since '88. But in terms of this particular area, I think what I've seen is a real pride in community that goes throughout this region. I think folks are very proud of where they are, where they're from, where they live, and the communities in which they reside. I think that we have a long history in the western part of the state of that community, sense of community pride. Sometimes it gets in the way, to be honest with you. If the folks in one small town are more proud of their town and less so of the neighboring town, and you try to attract an industry, it sometimes makes it more difficult to work together. But I think on average, it's a very positive thing. I think another thing is the work ethic that you see throughout the western part of Tennessee. There's a reason that we have so many manufacturing firms located here, and that is because manufacturers recognized a long time ago that this is a great place with a good workforce, the people who are willing and able to put in an honest day's work. That is something that has stood us well over time. Third thing is we have an abiding belief in a higher power. You know, it's no small accident that there is a church on every corner that makes for a very vibrant and a very strong sense of community, of family, and of our role in this universe.
Yes, sir. Now, as you described earlier, you've had an extensive career in education so far. Now, starting out, could you describe or tell us your philosophy about education?
Yeah, you know, as a high school dropout, I realized that without education, your options are limited. When I was standing on the street corner in Detroit back in '63, my options were quite limited. I could hang out on the corner and get in trouble, and you know where that ends up. That's just not a good place to be. I really couldn't go to college immediately because I was a high school dropout. So that was off the table. I could hang out at a corner, or I could go to work in the car plants. I did both. Neither one was particularly satisfying. And what I recognized is the value of higher education is immense. First, it helped me learn a profession in which I could earn a living and support my family. Second, it helped me understand and appreciate my role in the community in which I live. It has so many different options and values that make it worth doing. So education really became the watchmark in my situation in terms of the way I look at the world and how the world has viewed me. I'm still that same guy that was a high school dropout. I happen to sit in a fancy office with a fancy title, but I also appreciate the fact that I didn't get here by accident. And so when I work in a community college, it's particularly exciting and rewarding because we are the one institution of higher education that can do that same thing for others. There is what we have is called an open door, and that means every one of the 400,000 people that live in our service area is welcome to come to our institution. We are the only institution of higher education that's not selective, and that has a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous challenge associated with it. It means that we are the access point for higher education for those who otherwise would never be able to access higher education. I believe in that very strongly, very deeply held conviction, and I can tell you story after story of people whose lives we made better because they chose to come to Jackson State when they may not have had another path in terms of higher education.
Outstanding. Now, of course, you've seen a lot of different things happen within our education system. Some good, some not so good. Could you describe one incident, or maybe even more, that has impacted education over the past few years?
The past few years, in particular, has seen a continuing decrease in the level of state financial support that is very detrimental to what we do. Under the past governor, we lost 16% of our state appropriations last fiscal year. This current fiscal year, we've lost an additional 6%. Under the new governor, another 2%. You know what they say, you know, $1 million here and $1 million there, and eventually it adds up to serious money. Well, let me tell you, that's exactly where we are. Over the last several years, this institution has lost over 30% of its state appropriations. The state appropriations are a significant part of our budget. That means the challenge of serving all those folks who would not otherwise be served becomes even greater. It's more and more difficult to do all the time. We haven't given up. We will not give up. But the ability to serve people is greatly challenged given the current fiscal environment we find ourselves in. When I came to Tennessee in 1988, the community colleges received approximately 80% of their budgets from the state appropriations. The 20% remaining came largely from tuition. So it was 80-20. Today, that is now 45% state appropriations and 55% tuition. That not because tuition has gone up dramatically, but because state appropriations have gone down. We now find ourselves with the majority of our budget not even coming from state appropriations. What that means is that the per capita expenditures, the amount per student we have available, is less and less and less. So we have to constantly look at ways that we can help students succeed, those very at-risk students that might not otherwise have the opportunities in our society, help them succeed with dwindling resources. Not an easy challenge. It's certainly something we've managed so far, but it's a tough one to deal with. At the same time, our enrollment continues to grow. So that, I would think, in the last few years is the biggest challenge that we found ourselves in. The second challenge over the last several years is recognizing that if we want this area we call home to continue to grow and to prosper, we have to have an educated workforce. There's no alternative. We compete for industry with people from other counties, from other states, from other regions, in fact from other countries. And if we don't have a well-educated, dynamic workforce, we're going to lose in that competition. I'm not willing to accept that, and I don't think other folks are either. So we have to look at how we shepherd the limited resources we have in such a way that we can, in fact, maintain and improve our competitive edge. If we don't, we'll go the way of the cutting and sewing operations. We'll go the way of those other kinds of things that have disappeared from our venue, our view.
Great. Now, we're about going to finish up here, and what I would like to ask you now is that none of us are promised tomorrow. None of us are guaranteed to be here tomorrow, the next day, or even the next hour. With that being said, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered by that student that you run into, you know, you're pumping gas and somebody walks up to you and said, you know what, 10 years ago I went to Jackson State and the programs that you offered, I was able to become a nurse. And now I have a very good job at the hospital. I'm supporting my family. And you and Jackson State made that kind of a difference in my life. That's the way I want to be remembered, and institutionally and personally, as making a difference in an individual's life. Because you take an individual here and an individual there, and you keep adding them up, and they in turn touch others, and it's like the pebble in the water. You throw the pebble in the water, and the ripples will go out and out and out and go and touch lives that you never even thought of touching. I think that's what all of our lives are about, is making a positive difference in the lives of others around us. And that's what I think is a legacy, and that's what we try to do at Jackson State Community College.
Great. Now, my final question for you, Dr. Blanding, is if you could leave one message to future generations, what would that be?
Education. Education is the key to all things. If you have a really good, solid education, it helps you understand whatever it is you're trying to understand, whether it's reading a chapter in the Bible, whether it's understanding the value of government and how it positively impacts your life, whether it is understanding nature around you and the planet we live on, whether it is better able to understand things about your work and the way that people interact. Education is the key to so many things and such a difference that if I had to say in a word, it would be education.
Great. Now, that concludes our interview. And again, you are a leader in our community, and I commend you for everything, and I actually look up to you for everything that you have done. So again, thank you for everything that you do.
The only way you could look up to me if I was standing on top of a step.
You stand on mighty high shoulders with me, so I have to look up at you. So again, thank you for everything. Thank you for being a leader, and thank you for doing this interview for Weststar.
And I wish you well with Weststar.
Thank you, sir.